Um,
Kampai!
Hi! Simon Sensei, good to see you.
This is now what we call the difficult second album. Because last week, a raging success. Now, what are we going to talk about?
It might be difficult because it's questions with beers, and that's the issue. Drinking beer.
Well, yeah, well, whatever. Okay, so
okay, you're starting.
Are you ready? You ready? This first question for Scott Langley, Sensei. So you started jiu-jitsu when you were 7. So then you ended up doing karate. Yeah. And now, one of the things, you're famous, like you don't listen to music. Don't you? I mean, were you sort of, were you, like I used to play football until I discovered Kung Fu, I did football every day.
Yeah.
Were you sort of athletic, apart from jiu-jitsu? Did you play football or rugby or something? And then were you naturally athletic? And then when you started doing karate, were you sort of one of those annoying people who are naturally good at it? And where does your athleticism come from? And were you supple? And so this is all in the same thing your early life. And then
not 5 questions in one.
Right, I'll do that one. That's the one question.
Is it?
That. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, did you say I don't listen to music?
You said to me you don't listen to music.
I don't know. Can't stand it. Like
you're the only person I know, apart from my Taliban friends, who can't stand music.
I didn't realise I was famous for it.
Well, you're famous with me.
Okay. There are so many things.
It is odd. I mean, most people watching this will listen to music. I'd like music.
It might shock people to find out that I've never actually bought a record or a CD or a cassette or anything. So, like, if I'm in a bar and like it's noisy, well, people call it music, but it's noisy and I can't hear what people are saying, and it's just a pain in the arse. I can't stand it. I've been to a few concerts dragged there by my brother.
Yes, I remember
my wife. But yeah, that's it. Yeah. So so back to the question. I started jiu-jitsu when I was like 5, but like and then I did that, and then my parents moved about, and I followed them. So then I landed on karate when I was like 10, and then started properly when I was about 11, 12. But yeah, right the way through from 10 years old, I played hockey.
Yeah.
And I swam also. So when I was in Liverpool, I swam, and I used to be on the Liverpool training squad. So I used to represent Liverpool for swimming. I didn't represent Liverpool. I was on the squad, and I was just too young. Like, they didn't kind of compete at that age. But I was swimming 2 hours a day, 5 days a week after school.
Right. Yeah. That's dreadful, going funny silver hair type swimming. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 till 6 p.m. every day through the week, when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. And then when we left Liverpool, I quit swimming. I didn't swim ever again, kind of competitively. And I started playing hockey. And I played hockey from then right the way up until my first year at university. So for a good 10 years. And I was county level. And by the time I got to Liverpool, by the time I got to university, I was the only fresher. I was the only first year university student to go straight to the first team, and I was playing with under 21 England team members. So I was playing. Yeah.
So how did that do? Like, when you went to karate, did you already had this? When I started karate, I had no physicality. I was weedy and skinny, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You had this physicality, and then
yeah.
I mean, standard question: did karate come relatively easy for you?
Yeah.
Especially the stretching, because no one stretched it in them days, even in your days. So were you relatively supple too?
Yeah, I was always flexible. But like, I've got an identical twin brother as well. You know.
Yeah.
And I often joke. Well, I say I joke, but he thinks I'm just winding him up. But I joke, and because we're identical, we're clones, and I say, look at what you're wasting. You could earn a living doing karate. Yeah, but he has a far better living doing other things. So I don't know. He doesn't have the same flexibility as me. So I think we had a natural ability to be flexible. But then I put the work in. Like anything. I'm just reading a really good book actually at the moment that Dr. Barry Sheen lent me. and the name of it I can't remember. But it's all about kind of like the genetics of sport, and nature versus nurture and all that kind of stuff. I'm only halfway through, but it's a really interesting book. But the underlying theory of it is that for sure there are trainability traits within people, and there are for sure natural abilities within people, and it's often a balance between both. But you'll often get kind of really natural talented people, but they fail to kind of improve rapidly, whereas you'll get kind of people who are trainable, as in they have that ability to train, and they will show improvements right the way through their careers. So I'm not too sure what I'd come under, but for sure I do know that I have that trainability, because all I do is train and love training, and it's part of my DNA, and that is what kind of has kept me going. And if I don't stretch, for example, I do feel myself getting stiff, so I'll go through periods of kind of quite a lot of it stretching to get my flexibility back.
Yeah, you told me about magnesium, didn't you? Because I've been doing magnesium recently. Because I've always stretched as well. But it's all. I mean, I think sometimes the hard won stuff is better. I mean, like you and me, we know people now who are like, who are naturally good or naturally talented, and very few of them fulfill the potential, really.
Yeah, like for sure. Like I've had kids in the dojo who are extremely talented. And I've had kids that just struggle along. Like my dojo's been going now for 18 years, coming up to 18 years. And like for sure, the ones who are naturally talented very rarely make it.
Yeah, it's actually the car tortoise, really. It's people put the work in there.
Yeah. So like I guess I above all else, I think I have the ability to train.
This is my supplementary question then to this one. Is that if you hadn't done what you've done with karate, you probably would have gone into the military?
Yeah,
I can see you there.
I wanted to. So my plan was to go into the army, and I always wanted to go to special forces. I always wanted to be in the SAS, and still do.
It's too late, Sensei.
No.
Join the TA, Territorial Army. I think you would have been very good in it. Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting because so you brought that physicality to your karate, didn't you?
Yeah. I was always kind of much more in my body than my head, and but yeah, for sure. Like the one thing like my brother is like I would argue that I'm a bit dyslexic. We were both my brother and I were tested, and I think he was cleared and I was like borderline, and I can see it in my daughter. My daughter kind of is mildly dyslexic, and the more dyslexic you are, and you'll kind of see this.
I know about this, yeah.
But like the more dyslexic you are, the more prone you are to be more physical. Like you also kind of go to more engineering and logical kind of things. So I'm quite logical in the way I think. I'm also quite kind of, for example, I look at karate in a biomechanical way. And when I teach in a thematical way. It's all kind of structure. And that's, and when I train, I do the same thing, So I think maybe just like my whole makeup, kind of DNA makeup is about kind of being in my body and having structure and kind of looking at things in an engineering, biomechanical, scientific, logical way.
Yeah, it's like Zen, the two types of people in Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance.
It's funny you mention that.
All right, well, I'm the romantic type, and you're like the boring type who does everything properly.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's pretty much question one done.
That's question one. Okay, well, nice segue, Simon Sensei. I have a first question and then a supplementary question. Okay, moving Zen versus Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. Which is your favorite go-to book out of those two? And why? I know that's a hard question, but hey.
No, it's not. Easy question. Moving Zen is a great book, and it's easy to read.
Yeah.
It's one man's quest on a path for gentleness. So it's about it's beautifully written, set in its time. You know, I've read it 100 billion times. I read it when the first time I read it, it like set off all these light bulbs in me, and it's perfect. It's like set in amber, isn't it?
Yeah.
And 1963, 4, whatever, beautifully written, and you know, and it's a timeless book in a world that's long gone.
Yeah.
You know, and Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is a philosophical book. You know, so it's a quote from Plato at the top. You know, what is good and what is not good? Do we need to ask these things? Wow, great question. You know, you can't say it depends. You know, and it's so you know it's a meditation on quality. And, you know, we've talked about this. It's one of my favorite books. So you know, if you want a nice read, I think this is a good point because it's a bit like, how serious do you want to go into this stuff? You know, I've been reading a lot about Karate Do recently. You know, and Karate Do is like, you know, it's philosophy. So Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is a great book. And, you know, the whole thesis of quality is brilliant, and types of people. I mean, you and me are the complete opposites. You know, I am very much the romantic person, you know, very unpractical, blah, 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 blah. And I have that mode. You're like, you know, boring person who does it properly. So I would say, you know, Zen and the Art. If I, you know, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is a hard read. You know, and you've got to want to read it, and it involves. It's the reason I did philosophy. I mean, the thing about that book was, I mean, there's the other side. I mean, I loved motorbikes around in the area when I was about 16, 17. I really got into motorbikes, and I was into kung fu. So this book came out called Zen: The Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Thought brilliant. It'll be about kung fu and motorbikes. And then very early on, Percy says, you know, this book has very little to do. It has more to do about motorcycle maintenance than Zen, actually. But no, so but let's say, and this might come back to one of my questions later on, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's a serious book, and I'd recommend it to everybody.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's a philosophical work, and it's not an easy read. But certainly, you, me, and Rick Houghton. I mean, when Rick stayed with me, he just said to me, "Hey, Simon, we've got the same books." You know, and you know, his karate is a good example of quality.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, when you read about quality, it does blow your mind. And then going back to Plato, you know, in terms of karate, we can see what's good. You know, but, you know, and this may be the question I've got maybe for you later on, you know, lots of people can't.
Yeah.
We've had conversations about people, you know, about who do things on Facebook or on YouTube. And we look at it and go, oh, that's really good, but it's not karate.
Yeah.
So it has to be then the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, with the sort of caveat that if you want to read a great book about karate, read Moving Zen. If you want to read a really good book about philosophy, read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And
I would argue, though, that if you really wanted to understand how to become good at karate, then Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is going to give you far more information or equipment or just a way of thinking about karate.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think maybe I'm being a snob. I think you just need to make that. You know, I remember a while ago, a few years ago now, someone was talking to me about they love to film Seven Samurai. They love to film The Last Samurai. Yeah. And I just, well, if you really want to know about samurai films, you know, watch Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, well, that's got subtitles. And it's a bit like it's being serious. If you're serious about that, yeah, there's a great book about when he goes to a shop to get his bike fixed, and they've got music on, and all the guys are chatting and laughing, and he goes, these guys aren't going to fix my bike. Yeah. You know, I want to fix my bike to like it. You know, if you go to anywhere in Japan, they're not going to have music on. They're going to do it.
No,
you know, no, you're quite right.
Yeah.
And he also talks about, you know, they're going into the mountains in Montana, and the people in the BMW don't bother changing the carbs, but he knows the air's high, and he changes the jets on the carb because he's doing everything properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that's in terms of karate and martial arts. It's like we have to have that. The devil's in the detail, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
How many times have we seen people, or you know, that they just look at you, go, "You're mad," because, well, you know, you think about your front knee. Why are you doing that? You know, I just want to have a BMW, press the button and go.
It's the agglomeration of marginal gains.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
like
All the essence of Zen.
yeah, I mean, like that line is from the Olympic coach of the 2012 GB cycle
Yeah,
team.
yeah, it is. Yeah, this guy, what's his, I can't remember his name now.
I can't remember his name, but
No, but he invented kind of, well, he came up with the martial games. Because before that in cycling, everyone took loads of drugs. And then the next, his name will come by the end of it. But he
yeah,
was the first one. They always stay in crap French hotels. You know,
yeah,
just hotels, because Tour de France, millions of people,
yeah.
you know, and he basically got the Sky bus, and they had their own chefs and their own,
Oh, really?
they had their own beds. So
Uh,
instead of staying in like the travel lodge in Rouen, they'd stay in the Sky massive big bus.
yeah,
Yeah, so he was the beginning of all
uh,
that.
yeah. I always think that's what karate
Brailsford,
is.
David Brailsford.
Sorry.
David Brailsford is
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Entry question to that is for you, what is Zen?
Oh, that's a question you can't ask.
Yeah, I know, but I have. So
Whoa, what do you want? You see, the trouble is I'm a smart ass.
I wouldn't be talking to you if you weren't. Come on.
Give me a second. Give me a second. Because I'll tell you, it's my favourite Zen joke. There's a book called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. And this is why I love Rick Jackson, man. And I love training with Rick Jackson because he is a Zen master. But this is just a joke, but this kind of sums up Zen. So this is a book called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, 60s book by Paul Reps, all Zen riddles and koans. And 3 months take a vow of silence. They're going to sit and meditate for 12 hours without speaking. They sit in the Zendo, the hall, and after an hour, one of the candles go out. And one of the monks says, "Oh, the candle's gone out." And the second one says, "You've just spoken." And the third one says, "I'm the only one who hasn't said anything." It's a great joke. Which is just a joke. It's not my joke. Honestly, this is a Zen joke.
Right.
Okay, there's two answers to this. Zen is really boring. Okay, so most forms of Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism has incredibly good mindfulness of breathing. They have Vipassana. They have actual, meditation. Tibetan Buddhism have visualizations, loads of them. So their meditation is really interesting. Zazen from Bodhidharma is just sitting.
Mm.
You sit facing a wall with your eyes a little bit open, and that's it. So it's like the most extreme form of I mean, to be honest, I don't like Zazen. I much prefer time meditation because it gives you a goal. It's a little bit like sit in front of a wall and you'll sort it out. And the Japanese version, of course, they'll hit you with a stick to wake you up. Japanese Zen is, very horrible, really, I think.
Yeah.
It's hardcore and horrible. So, I mean, that's...
Like ultimately, they're the two ways to find Zen. But for you, what is the goal then?
Well, I'm not a Zen Buddhist, no. I'm interested. I mean, okay. I mean, it's about now. It's living in the now.
Yeah.
Lenny Bruce, the comedian, said you can only talk about what is happening now, and everything is about now. So Ichigo Itie is a great Zen thing.
Mm.
So basically, 1 point. So you sit meditating, 1 point, and that's it. I think we've talked about this before. People spend hours and hours and hours doing meditation, but I mean, maybe the beauty of Zen is just to live the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with any.
Yeah. I remember I was talking about this morning to the guys, actually. I don't know why we were on about it, but I remember when I was, my parents owned a pub when I was growing up, so I lived in a pub. And so when I was like 17, 18, I started working behind the bar, 18. And I took a year out from A levels to university to save up enough money to go to Japan. And so I used to work in the bar, and I used to do the lunch hour shift for a whole year. And there was a guy called George who used to come sit at the end of the bar, have his 3 half pints of bitter, and then he'd waddle off home, And he became a really good friend, Like I used to chat to him, and I was 18, he was 78, maybe, I don't know. And I'd often joke, I say, oh, come on, I wish it was 3 o'clock and get you out of here and I can go upstairs and, do nothing, basically. And he'd, in his Yorkshire accent, he'd go, hey, lad, don't wish away your life. And like, it was just one of those throwaway comments, but he said it enough for me eventually to go, I know what you mean. And just being, I mean, in his own unique way, just be present, just be here, just be now, just experience this moment right now. And that was a really important lesson at 18. Because at 18, you're just trying to, hurry through your life so you can get on with things, right?
It's also like, karate is emptiness.
Yeah.
It's just letting things go.
Yeah.
Let I mean, the big thing, in Funakoshi, it was, karate was Tang. It was Chinese. He changed it, to literally from the heart sutra. The heart sutra is, form is emptiness. Form is void, void is form. Something like that. But basically, he literally did that. And it was about accepting things as they are, and emptiness, and having no attachments. Yeah. So it's a deeply, I think no attachment is good.
Yeah.
So, I tell you what, the other thing they did, another great story is like something like Doga, the Zen master, asked his student, what is Zen? And Doga's student picked up his sandal and hit him on the head, and he went, exactly.
Really? I don't get that one.
No, I mean, I'm not joking. I talked to Rick Jackson. Ask Rick Jackson that question.
Okay.
Sensei. And Rick Jackson Sensei will give a better answer than me.
Okay.
But again, like all these things, it's not, I don't like soundbite stuff. So loads of people, go, oh yeah, my karate Zen. These things are not taken lightly. And I know Rick Jackson Sensei is will do Zazen. I've trained with him how to do Zazen at the end of the class. There's no, there's no cushion or anything, and you just sit.
Yeah.
So Zazen is just sitting, and possibly the essence of Zen is just sitting.
Yeah. Cool.
I'll do one more story about Buddhism, which I really like. There's a guy called Ajahn Chan, who's he's got food for the heart. He's a Thai Buddhist monastery stuff, and he's just brilliant. He's always laughing. He's dead now. He's always laughing. Funny. And only a lot of foreigners did proper Zen with him. And an American scholar of Buddhism came to see him and said, "What are your thoughts about the Diamond Sutra?" He goes, "I don't know. I've never read it." And I love that. And he goes, how much meditation do you do? And she was like an academic in Princeton or something. He goes, "Oh, I've never meditated." And he goes, "Oh, well, you're not really a Buddhist."
Yeah.
So it's a bit like, people who do karate, who can talk about everything but don't really do karate that much.
Yeah, I know that there is a lot of that, isn't there? Where people sit around talking about how we should live our lives rather than living their lives.
Yeah,
I think
that's what, going back to my book there. I mean, I just don't like empty slogans.
Yeah.
Because it's like you can see it all the time on Facebook, and we're going back to what I said last week. You are what you do, and people have this narrative in their head that, I'm a Zen Buddhist or I'm a Buddhist, and you're not. That's why I say I'm not a Buddhist.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, my question, okay, give us a second. So this is a sort of, so you did anthropology at university.
I did.
How did that happen? And did that help you cope with the cultural minefield that was living in Japan and being part of a mini sort of social group in Japan?
It might have done if I'd paid attention at university.
So did you just polish your wazoo when you're at university?
Yeah, in many ways.
Why did you do anthropology? What drew you to that?
Yeah, so I was always a human sciences kind of guy. So it was actually a joint honours degree in geography and anthropology. So I went to Keele University in Staffordshire, which specialises and famous for doing only dual honours degrees. So you always did a double major. And and so I did geography, which was like my best subject at school, and also my favorite subject. And also I wanted to do kind of a sociology, social science kind of thing. And so the degree actually was social anthropology. And, and
I
it
did
was,
that subsidiary.
say again?
I did that as a subsidiary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
fantastic. It was fantastic. So I was doing like the anthropology of witchcraft, and the anthropology of gift giving, and like the anthropology of sea monsters and lake monsters. That was
Excellent.
fantastic. And what they cleverly did in that course was really show the fundamental similarities between all cultures. All cultures have wedding ceremonies, birth ceremonies, death ceremonies, all
The
kind of,
incest taboo. I did that. Do you remember that? Let's say on the incest taboo. All cultures have an incest taboo.
Yeah. So fundamental, core to who we are and what we are, and then also then you could see what wasn't. So I did an anthropology of humor. So there's some tribes in Africa who think the height of humor is picking up some cow dung and throwing it at someone. They think that's hilarious.
Slapstick's one of the 7 forms of comedy.
Yeah. So like what it was really good at, I think, is just making you a little bit more empathetic, and going, you know what, like it made you not ethnocentric. It made you not see the world only through your own eyes, but to see the world through other people's eyes, and then broaden your ability to empathize, and not be kind of just, mono ethnocentric. And so did that help me when I was in Japan? I'd already been to Japan before, like I'd spent a month there before university.
We'll ask about that in a minute, so don't answer that yet.
So I had some inkling of what Japan was like, and I guess there was a lot of things that I looked at whilst at university in the small amount of studying that I did do, that I kind of maybe, obviously you kind of can compare it to your own life experiences, and part of that life experience was Japan. So
were you interested in Japan then?
Oh yeah, completely.
No,
yeah.
you would.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I did a subsidiary in Japanese. One of my closest friends was Japanese. He was a kendo guy from Osaka that I became really close with. And so yeah, like for sure. And when I went to Japan, I guess there was just an ability to kind of cope, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
Than other people that I knew who went at the same time.
Were you aware of like Geary and all that kind of stuff?
Was I? Yeah.
Yeah. So you knew kind of like,
Yeah. But I never really kind of. They're the kind of they're the landmarks of the culture, right?
Yeah.
Like we have Giri.
Of course we do.
And Senpai and Koha. So I never, like a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people when they look at Japanese culture, they look at the other. They try to look at what's different. Whereas I just feel similarities. I'm just focused on that.
I agree with you. I mean, in all my travels, you find out people are people. The old cliche. But I think we like the other, don't we?
Yeah.
Like you said last week, you want Japan to be like, all tinkly temples and blah blah blah.
Yeah, there is a sense of that. But like, I think when you're trying to connect, you don't. You want them to be like I think visiting, you want to see the other. You want it's the spectacle of it that makes things interesting. But when you're there, living, trying to connect, it's the similarities I think that you're looking for.
But when you were in the dojo, I mean, you were aware of Senpai Kohai and your place in that, because that mean spending your time at the JKS, that was a massive cultural anthropological experience, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't think I was so much thinking about that at the time. I don't think I was thinking, this would make a great book someday.
Yeah.
I was too busy trying to block.
But you didn't need to like try and fit in, because you can make you made great folk, you made massive folk bars. Everyone makes folk bars.
Yeah.
But it wasn't minefield, was it?
I did. I think I fitted in, like I kept my head down more than maybe other people before, all the foreigners that had gone before me, for sure. Like I can't say that for certain. I know one or two that in comparison to, I kept my head down more than they did. That's what I've been told, and that was just well, it was a survival mechanism. Like keep your head down, keep your mouth shut. Let's just get through this day. But I think I also had the understanding of how to keep my mouth shut. You know what I mean? I understand that. Okay, I recognize that this is a different culture. Well, it's just, it has different aspects of this culture than Western dojos or Western society. And in this circumstance, doing this or saying that would be a faux pas. I mean, didn't always succeed because I made huge faux pas. But generally speaking, kept my mouth shut, kept my head down, got through the day. That was it. Whereas other people would go, "Oh, Sensei, sorry, what are you doing there?" Kind of thing, Like, no way. How was I going to do that, Yeah.
Well,
Okay. Can I ask a question now?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. What still excites you about karate?
Ooh. Well, okay, the number one thing that excites me, which is the biggest challenge, is to keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know me, I said this last week, to keep doing it, really. And the other thing I'm still very excited by Goju Ryu. I've been doing a bit of Goju in the garden again, just mainly because the kata's a bit more suitable. But I quite enjoy doing Goju kata, and so that keeps me excited. And just people, I suppose. I mean, I love the energy that as a group now. I love the energy that we've got.
Yeah.
And kind of think other people keep me going, because most of the time, it's not about me anymore, which is quite good. In my head, it's always about me. And I remember seeing Onagar Sensei last time we were in Japan, and I had a little chat with him. I mean, it was a very, very, very basic thing, but he said, "How old are you?" I said, "So and so," and I said, "Can't do Sensei." He couldn't do Sensei, and it's a bit like, I'm becoming more of a coach, more of a sensei, really. So I realised I don't have to do it all anymore. It's sort of bittersweet because I like doing it all. So I think that keeps it going. And I still love martial arts. So that's the other thing is I kind of I like karate, but I like all martial arts. So that keeps me going. I love Shurinji Kempo. We did Shurinji Kempo. Absolutely loved it. And absolutely love Goju Ryu. Absolutely love Shito Ryu, Weishi Ryu. I like, and I like training. I'm doing more and more weights at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. It's a new challenge. Still running, running again in a new way. Just like training.
Yeah.
So I'm just my thing is just keep going. I'm not bored by it, and I'm looking for something new. I wish there was some good other teachers around here who could teach me. I don't know, white crane kung fu or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd quite like, if there's a good Shurinji Kempo club, I'd join that.
Yeah. So to add that extra element to your career?
Just for fun. Just for fun, really. Just for the sheer fun of, I like hot yoga. I'm going back to hot yoga when we all go back to lockdown. I think that's the best thing I can do. Yeah. It's good for me. So I think like you, it's just what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think what happened the other day, I'm not, people slow down, don't they? People don't take it easy, slow down. My mum was like that. My mum, I used to run around Sefton Park in Liverpool like every day, and I'd come back like sweating. "Oh, take it easy, son." I don't know. My dad had a heart attack and smoked 40 fags. I said, "Look, Mum, I'm healthy." I just love it, really.
Yeah.
I can't imagine not doing it. If I didn't do it, I'd be very, very depressed, like you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll put that question back to you. What about you?
I think what excites me, training, especially it's been really kind of become very highlighted to me over the last 3 months while I've been locked down. Just like having the ability to, first of all, I've had so much more time to train and more energy to train just because I haven't been traveling. And so I've really kind of directed that into training. And I just get the small nuances, the small kind of like feelings and kind of connections, and then that kind of spawns like a dozen ideas of oh well, this means that, and that connected to that, and seeing the connections through all of it, and then trying to kind of in a thematically way present that in my classes, and going through that constant cycle of training, discovery, understanding, explanation, and that the constant flow of being within my body, and then trying to, in some sort of way, academically explain it.
Well, yeah, because you know when you did that Techie Eden class and you did shot putter and baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Great. And I did Kankusho the other day on my Zoom class, and I got the same feeling. You know, a lot of people do Kankusho, put their hands up there and go there, and I really enjoyed this feeling of getting that connection and coming in from the hip. Yeah. So it's just that, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's a bit like what Steve Ugal does. Only it's like I think the devil's in the detail. That maybe my other epitaph really. Yeah. I'm really enjoying when I first started karate. It was just I remember I had a duffel bag, and I stuffed duffel bag. I put it in with a screw, and I went kibadachi and punched it. And it was like really not powerful. And then I did like a big sort of wacky punch, and it was like and it flew off. And that was and there was a bit like, oh wait, but this is rubbish. And then it's a bit like you can enjoy the movement.
Yeah.
I mean that techie Nidan thing you did, I really enjoyed it, and it was playful. It was really playful. I think maybe I think that playing is good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you should play karate.
I think people forget, like especially people who've been teaching for a long time rather than training, they forget that like the joy is being in their body and being connected and feeling alive and everything that makes you think about.
I get that from running. You know, I really get that. I have no music and I run, and that whole movement and cycling now as well. Just it's wonderful. Yeah.
A bit like a Zen movement, is it?
Might be.
Cool. Okay. Is it my? Oh no, your turn now, is it? Or my turn?
Oh, my turn. Okay, hang on. Yes. Okay. Okay. Here we go. All right. Now, okay. So, right. So, Kato Sensei died. And let's not talk about him as a character, but can you tell me about Kato Sensei's karate, how it affected you and your first Japan trip? Is that all right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have misgivings, to be honest, talking about Kato Sensei. But, he was the first Japanese sensei I ever saw, and he was unquestionably amazing. So you tell me about it,
Yeah. I mean, Kato Sensei was my first ever. Well, it wasn't my first instructor. I started in a dojo with an instructor called Howard Milson, who was a fit down at the time, who is still I was a very close friend and is amazing. And
Is he still training?
He doesn't. He stopped when I went to university. He closed the club down. He went right. That's it. I've given back to karate. Yeah, like he was like Scott. I've given Scott to the karate world. That's it. I'm done. It's something like that. And but he still kind of does stuff. Still moves. Still really fit. He's 60. Geez, he'll be 70 next year, I think. Still super fit, super strong. One of the funniest people I know.
I don't like him.
He's hilarious, brilliant. I mean, and so anyway, he was my first instructor. But then he was the top student of Kato Sensei, and then so from from all my grades, very early on, I was training with Kato Sensei as well. And what Kato Sensei was great at was seeing patterns, and so without a shadow of a doubt, I learned how to teach from him. I mean, I learned lots of other things from him. But he would take one idea, one pattern, whether it be a Kihon drill or Kumite drill or wherever. He took a pattern and say a Kihon drill, and then he would find ways to show how that would work in Kumite or show how that existed in Kata, and not only one kata but a whole host of kata. And he would weave this kind of like theme through not only an hour's class, but like a whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10, 15 hours of training would just be this kind of relentless kind of constant idea. I mean, maybe I'm romanticizing it a little bit, but for sure, he was an absolute genius.
I mean, I've been on courses with him.
Yeah.
And I've seen, where did he get that from? Because I trained with Anoida Sensei, and the best of the world, Anoida Sensei was fantastic, but he didn't do that.
No, I think in many ways that was his genius, and I think it produced a lot of jealousy. I mean, there's a whole host of other things, obviously, that went on with Kato Sensei that made him be the black sheep of the family. But in no small way, I think it was his talent that really added to that.
The instructor's course, did he either?
Say again?
He never did the instructor's course.
He did 6 weeks.
Right.
So he, from what I understand, and like there's a whole, like if you read online, there's lots of different histories, and there's a lot of people, a lot of websites now out there that would claim that he did the instructor's course. He didn't. He was from Kochi in Shikoku and trained there, and then he went to Takashuka University as a rugby player.
Right.
And for the first 3 years of university, he trained and played for the rugby team. Yeah. And he was fanatical about rugby. He loved rugby. And it was only in his last year that he went and trained with the karate club. But he was talented, you know?
Yeah.
He was very talented. And then he moved to Germany, and he was working for an import-export company in Germany. Proper job, yeah. This is probably early 60s, I guess. And then he was teaching karate, I think, part-time. And then the karate boom happened. And because of the Takashuka University, Anoida Sensei asked him to come over to England and assist him because he needed help. And he was in Germany, blah, 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 Takashuka, blah, blah, blah. Okay, come and help me. And that's when he started teaching full-time professionally. But in between Germany and going to England, I think he went back to Japan for 6 weeks and trained on the JK instructor's course. And I remember him saying it was crazy. They were all trying to kill him.
Yeah.
He had a job, you know, and he was just there for 6 weeks, and then he was going off to teach full time, you know. So I guess they gave him a hard time. But I think I'm not wrong in saying that he only did 6 weeks.
But then also, like you said, he never talked after training. He never talked about karate, like golf and stuff. But he sort of expressed himself in the classes, didn't he? And then afterwards, he never talked about it.
No, I think he was one of those guys that. Like, there were times where he would talk very seriously about karate. Like for sure, he loved karate.
Yeah.
And I used to be at his house. Well, so the reason why I went to Keele University in Staffordshire was because it was 14 miles away from his house. Mm-hmm. And so that's specifically why I went to that university. And so for the 4 years that I was at university, I was basically at his house, I was there at least twice a week.
Yes, you started.
Yeah, I mean, most weekends I would be with him, going around teaching different places, assisting him, blah, blah, blah. And he always had some obscure karate book in his hand, studying it, reading. Yeah. But I never saw him train once. He was one of those guys who'd like to go back to that book that we were talking about before. If you have the trainability gene and just the natural talent gene, he was one of those guys who was just naturally talented. And I suspect no matter how much training he did, he probably wouldn't improve. He was just, boom, straight out of the package, works, that's the way it is. But for sure, he trained his mind, and he was constantly studying.
And he had a relationship with Asai Sensei?
Yeah.
It's obviously now you can see it, can't you, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, things like a lot of the Asai kata, Kato, like Kiba Ken, he added to them, didn't he?
So,
did they or not?
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure. Like Kato Sensei could see a kata once. Like, I'm not really making this up, but he could see a kata once and be able to repeat it.
Yeah, you're a bit like that, a little bit.
3 times. I need to physically do it 3 times, and I'll remember it.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm. He once told me that. You just had to see a kata once and you'd remember it. Now, I suspect that's a bit exaggerating. I suspect that maybe if he did it once or twice, he would remember it. He was better than me. 3 times I remember it. I reckon if he did it once, maybe twice, he'd remember it. Any kind. So he picked up a Sai Sensei's kata, boom, like that.
And then he'd make another one.
Yeah. So like for Kibakan's a good example.
Yeah,
Sai Sensei only mentioned Kibaken in passing, and said that there was 5 of them. There was a set of 5, and then Sai Sensei, Kato Sensei, created them all.
Right. Oh, did you?
And then later on, after Sai Sensei passed away, we found out that he had taught Kibaken to a few people, and and he taught one of them was Yamaguchi Takeshi from the JKS, and I learned it from him. I learned Kibaken.
Who was that again?
Yamaguchi Senpai.
Yamaguchi does it. Okay, yeah.
And then the next thing I see is that, like, it'd been on, someone put it on video. Kato Sensei had learnt it, and then all the 5 that he had created, that one that Sai Sensei created or had, became Kibaken Shodan, and all the others were bumped up. So Shodan because he had invented Kibaken Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, Yon, and Godan. And so they all got bumped up. Shodan became Nidan and blah, blah, blah. And Junro, Kibaken Godan became Kibaken Super Empe or something like that.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah.
And but he just like kata.
Yeah.
Amazing, you know. And what was remarkable was that the Kibaken that Asai Sensei taught and the Kibaken, I didn't see them all, but I saw a few. The Kibaken that Kato Sensei had created were thematically similar. And so Asai Sensei must have mentioned it in passing. And then Kato Sensei went bing, 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 and created. Like, fairly amazing, really.
No, he was like a true maverick, wasn't he? He was like a wild card.
Yeah.
So, how old are you when you went to Japan? And tell us about that, because it's a good story.
Well, okay. Before I tell you that, the only thing I would say though is about that is that when the problem with that is because Kato Sensei was naturally talented, you know, that's why he was naturally talented, and B, this kind of kata genius. So he created loads of kata and was good at them all. Yeah. And then within the group, his group, that I would argue from an outside point of view, it then became about how many kata you knew.
Yes. People collect kata.
Yeah, rather than how good you are at the kata.
Yeah.
And so I think in many ways it then became self-defeating.
Yeah.
Like, this is long after I left him, long after I went to Japan and JKS and all that kind of stuff. Like, looking from the outside, I think it became a little bit self-defeating that his group then morphed into a very kata-dominant group where you had to just learn, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, 100 kata, you know?
You're training kata, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, but like, you know, you get to spend so much time just learning the patterns. They actually forget that it's supposed to be physical training. And it becomes mentally exhausting rather than physically exhausting.
As well, isn't it? Because they go, well, by the way, don't you know Yongnan?
Yeah. So, So I went to Japan, in... how old? I was 19, so I took a year out between A-levels and university, and so I was I 19, 18? I was 19. So it was 1992. Yeah, it was 1992. I started university in the autumn, and I went in the summer. And I was really naive, and I didn't drink. I had not. No, I didn't drink until university. Didn't drink until 2021 or something.
Did you drink when you came back?
No. I actually my first pint of lager was in Japan.
Oh, respect.
They handed me this pint of Kirin and drink. I was like, oh, okay. I'd like to try to sort it out. I mean, there was 4 of us that went. Kato Sensei and 3 students, me and 2 others. And the other 2 were a father and son combination. And he used to do this every year, similar to what we do, right? Every year he would take a group of people to Japan, and before then it'd been kind of, you know, lots of people. you know, like a dozen would go with him, or 20, or, you know, whereas there's only 3. And I think I might be right in saying that there wasn't many after me. Maybe that was even the last where he took a group to Japan. It was really the tail end. Because I think he did, like, it cost me £2,250 for,
Wow.
it was slightly less than a month.
Yeah.
And we went by Aeroflot, and
Yeah.
we didn't stay in any
Yeah.
hotels. We stayed in his family, friends, kind of spare rooms. Most of the time, if we went out eating, we would go out eating with the local dojo, who seemed to kind of pick up the tab and stuff. So he said he made money out of it. But, you know, that's fine, because he looked after us, and it was towards the end of that kind of era that he was doing those trips, and it was amazing. Like, we were training 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. I remember all my arms were red raw, both there and there, from punching so much. Just the chaffing of the dojo. I took Kato heavyweight in the middle of August in Japan. And like, the first night we arrived, we flew into Narita, and then we got the Shinkansen, the bullet train, right the way down to Shikoku, and we had like 2 or 3 days in Shikoku. And I remember we arrived in Kochi train station, and the heat hit you, you know, like, it was so humid. Beginning of August of '91, and there's a guy with a car waiting for us, and we stuff our kind of rucksacks, luggage, whatever, into the back of the car, and he drives, and we go to this restaurant, and there's a group of other guys waiting for us, you know, and they're all speaking Japanese, and there's just us 3 Westerners kind of like going, what the hell are we doing, you know? And they all had massive knuckles on them, you know, like all rounded features, and like, there was just fish tanks everywhere, and I was like, I have never been away outside the country without my mum, you know, like, what am I doing here? You know?
In Japan.
They're blowing away, and they're talking, and we're jet lagged, and I have no idea what time it is. And then this massive platter of sashimi, raw fish, arrives, bomb, right on the middle of the table. and the at the centerpiece is this kind of flat fish, kind of place type thing, right? And what the chef has done is got that flat fish, which was in one of the tanks 2 minutes ago, and cut all its meat off, chop the meat up, and put the meat back on the fish without damaging any of its internal organs. So the fish is still alive, and it's go.
Yeah, that's very Japanese.
Are picking the flesh off it and eating it, and I'm like,
welcome to Japan.
Yeah, welcome to Japan. So yeah, it was a crazy experience. Like,
but also, I mean, what did you make of the karate there? I mean, you've done loads of karate. I mean, you know, I probably know your answer, but you know, you're the Japan. Again, you did karate in Japan. How did that affect you? They're just like, oh, what?
No, it was great. It was great. What I found was, I mean, it was like back in the early 90s, right? So it was a little bit different. But what I found was, like, you know, you go to a dojo in the West, and maybe there would be 10 black belts. Maybe not even then, back in the day, right? But say there was 10 black belts, and one of them would be really good. You go to, like, you go to dojos all over with like, subsequently, like, not so much before I went to Japan, but after I went to Japan at university, I'd travel around the country with Kato Sensei. You go to any random dojo, 10 black belts, one is going to be fairly handy. You go kind of watch yourself with that guy. In Japan, you go to the dojo, there's 100 black belts.
Yes.
And maybe at least 10, 10%, or probably more like 20, 30% of them are really good. And so it was this, so is this,
and also, Kato Sensei giving much sleep, didn't he? Is he famous? I've read things about his trips, like, he just constantly no sleep, really.
Yeah, come on, we go. That's it. Oh, Jesus, pack your bag and then go. Yeah.
So, last bit for this question: does Kato Sensei have a legacy? You don't need to answer that. I can tell. That's a shame.
I don't know. Like, I'd like to think yes, but, you know, I mean, like, some of his top students, Alan Campbell, head of the JKS in England, great karate guy. Me, the IJK. Now
Bulgaria in Eastern Europe, aren't they?
say again.
He seemed to sort of take refuge in Eastern Europe, didn't he? Bulgaria.
Yeah, and I don't know so much because like that all happened after I left his group and so. But I hear that a couple of the guys in Eastern Europe are really good, and so yeah, the legacy there. I don't know about Kato, the guy who's now the head of the IJK, head of his group.
He's very young, isn't he?
He's a young guy, yeah, but like seems dynamic and flexible. So I don't know.
Japanese.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I think you said enough. I mean, I know you know about Kato. I mean,
one thing I would say about that trip to Japan, though, and certainly Kato Sensei was connected and really did open doors. I mean, the reason why I went back to Japan in no small way because of that trip. But like we went to a summer gashko, a summer training camp with East Fire Dojo, which is a dojo.
Naka's dojo, yeah.
Yeah, Naka's dojo. I didn't know it was Naka's dojo. I didn't even know who Naka was.
Mr. Middle.
And so we went to the Chiba, and the dojo was fantastic. It was like this massive dojo with sliding doors on one side, and you open the sliding doors and you were straight onto the beach.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And it was I think we did like 4 or 5 days at that camp. Again, 6 hours a day. And then the last day, this tall, for Japanese standards, young tall guy arrived. And it's Kato Sensei and Asano Sensei, who was obviously not the English Asano Sensei, but Asano Sensei was teaching the camp mostly. And this guy, tall Japanese guy, just jumped in the line, and I remember pairing up with him, and he could move. He was really, really good. But he was one of the few guys that he would let you, you'd try things out. He's like, okay, try this. Oh yeah, that was good. And he spoke a little bit of English, and I was like, oh, nice guy. And afterwards, like, oh, who's that? Oh yeah, that's Naka Sensei. He's just won the All Japan Championships. So he's the latest.
I think Naka Sensei is a breath of fresh air. And, he's a future JKA.
Yeah.
My one thing about the Kato Sensei in his group was, I was KGB, and very ignorance is bliss. And I just thought, and then I met Alan and you guys, and I thought, why are these guys so good? I'm like, because, and then you were doing JKA karate.
Yeah.
Which I'd done some JKA karate, but you're doing even more JKA karate than me. And then all these katas came out, and I thought, why don't I know about this? I was sort of angry. It was like this a new world. Yeah, well, because you don't know. I remember the courses I was in London, comedy thing, and there was courses in York with Keith Gullen and all them.
Yeah.
I read about them fighting arts, and was Yahara Sensei, Kagawa Sensei, the Yamaguchi Senior Sensei, Asai Sensei. And I thought, why didn't they go on them? I did at the time, but then I thought, when I was busy and I was job, blah blah blah. But it was like,
you should have come.
Yeah, well, there is another. I mean, it was like for me, there was another Shotokan.
Yeah.
Which is just shows when you're in your bubble.
Yeah.
And you just I just thought, KGB, we're the best practice.
Yeah. Right. Well, should we have one more question each, because we've been going on for an hour, and so we don't want to bore people too much.
Yeah, well, they've all gone anyway. One more question.
One more question. Do you want to? One more question. Do you want to? Or shall I ask you a question? Oh yes, I'll ask you a question because you.
I just ask you one, yeah.
Okay, here's one.
All right, go on.
No, I recently I've been thinking a lot about this and trying to kind of devise an article. So I'm going to ask you the question, and then if you give me a good answer, I'll write that and claim it's mine. But so I've been thinking a lot about legacy, and the legacy of the organization, like JKA, basically. I mean, like that's what I'm talking about. So, like, what's the legacy of the JKA, both on a technical level and also like an organizational level? So, what I've been thinking about is like, for sure, there's a legacy of that kind of draconian absolutism that you find often within JKA karate. I don't want to kind of like put down trans JK, but like within some JK karate. And
also karate.
Say again?
The gatekeepers of karate.
Yeah. And also not only in technical ability or technical information, but also in the structural organizational approach to karate. So that chief instructor and pyramid top-down kind of like hierarchy that obviously demonstrably doesn't work because, organizations like that are imploding all over the world. So my question is, what do you think about the legacy?
It's a difficult one. I mean, gosh, like you say, that old model doesn't work. And it's inevitable in any organization there'll be splits, and splits are natural, and going your own way is natural, and that's good. And don't be draconian. That's the problem. So the JKA, much as I love the idea of the JKA, but I think the modern JKA is like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And I know people, friends of mine, who are really good at karate, who've been totally crushed by them. And so they haven't nurtured anyone, and they've just become a corporation. So don't become a corporation. And I mean, I know. So if you look at, I don't know, there's another group which have supreme sheet hands and international sheet hands and all these titles, and they just have this. It's a hierarchy which is all based on money.
Yeah.
So it's what, it goes back to quality. Do quality, let people fly, and good will happen.
Yeah.
And let them be their own people, and people will go, and you've got to let them go with good grace.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And the more, it's like terrorism, the more you suppress people, the more you knock people down, the more conflict you get.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, again, I probably shouldn't. I'm not going to mention names, but I know people, say in the KGB, who are fantastic, and were basically just treated like club instructors.
Yeah.
And so treat people well, and then if they fly, let them go with good grace.
Yeah.
And that's kind of don't have any ego really. It's not the Scott Langley Karate Association.
Yeah. Sure.
It's not you and me's association. We want people. We want to give people wings and fly. And if they make mistakes, well, that's okay. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'm trying not to avoid slogans, but it's a niche. You're following a path. You're following the way. You want people to do good stuff, don't you? As long as they're doing good stuff, we're happy. And it doesn't have to be the stuff that you do.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't have to be the stuff that someone did in 1972.
Yeah.
Otherwise there's no future. And, it's a HDKI in 25 years, hopefully it still exists, will have nothing to do with us at all.
Yeah, for sure.
I've just been reading Funakoshi's book again, Kato Koyohan, and he changed all the names of the katas a bit. And he goes, this is fine. I'm sure people will change the katas' names again. There's nothing set in stone, no dogma.
Yeah.
I read it. I was quite surprised. I've got it there. I've got it.
Yeah.
I've got it here. I've just read it again just now.
Right.
Because but I'll maybe next week I'll quote it for you. But Kata's a living art. It changes all the time, and doesn't belong. No one has ownership of it. So the JKA doesn't own karate. I think they thought they did. And what's interesting maybe is, again, going back to Funakoshi, he said he didn't do so short of that. He said he did karate.
Yeah.
So we would say, much as we, as we're all not interested in kata competitions, in Japan, there's more and more people are just doing karate now, aren't they? So do you remember we did Wado? When we went the Wado Kai, there was some guy doing Anan or something.
Yeah.
Great?
Yeah.
And when we changed Shizumi Sensei, and then we did Seonchin, I thought people were doing more and more just karate. It may have been a little bit karate, but I quite like, I quite like that.
Yeah.
So does that answer the question?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, again, last thing I'll say is that say Kanazawa Sensei was absolutely fantastic, but if people still keep on doing Kanazawa Sensei until it'll just become moribund and dead. And I'm sure Kanazawa Sensei wouldn't want that. Really.
Yeah.
Right, I've got two questions for you here.
Two? Okay.
Well, no, because no, I've got loads of it. I'll save one for next time. You know what?
Okay.
Let's do. Tell me about Asai Sensei then. Is that all right? You want one?
Asai Sensei.
Or another one if you don't want that one.
Okay. Save that one for next time then.
Oh, okay, I thought so. Okay, this is
Yeah.
a trickier one now. So this
Okay.
is a so you and me are very confident,
Yeah.
and I think some people can see that as confidence or perhaps a little bit of arrogance. And
Mm.
I think you know, as a professional comedian, I sort of feel no desire to have to be funny all the time, like I used to have to be. You know? So this is a question. So it's a question about shugyo, hard training. So
Yeah.
you meet lots of people who talk to you, and I've been with you, and people talk to you as something like, you know, that they're equal with you, on a par with you, and they know absolutely nothing about karate. How do you tolerate fools? Is that a good question?
I don't know. Oh, back to Asai Sensei. That'd be an easy question. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's a bit
No,
like
no, I see what you mean. I'm just trying
you
to.
wear it lightly. You wear your talent lightly, you know. And
Yeah, I
go on.
think. I think. Well, first of all, I think there's this whole postmodernism where
Yes,
everyone thinks that their opinion is of equal merit.
that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, which I think is an issue that affects many different kind of fields of life. Yeah, whether you think, you know, like I'm on the board of management for my daughter's school, and like, you know, like as a parent, you know, like I'm one of two parents on the board of management, and because they want our opinion, but often I'll defer to the teachers. Well, you're the teacher, you're the professional. Although I'm a qualified teacher and I teach professionally, but like not in that circumstance.
Yeah, yeah,
And so you're the, you know, you're the professional. What do you think? Okay.
yeah,
Whereas maybe some of the other people, the other person on the board of management, know their opinion. Oh, this is my opinion,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and you see that an awful lot, I think, and I think it's really kind of limiting for people to think that they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the reason why postmodernism kind of developed, if that's the word, is because a lot of people were subjugated and denied access and opportunity just because they weren't, you know, from the correct ethnic minority, or they didn't go to the right school, or, you know, they didn't wear the necktie, blah blah blah. So there's a whole host of reasons why, like, opportunity and equality is a really important thing, but sometimes it can go too far, and then even the experts are put on the same kind of level as normal people, and, you know,
Right.
Mike Gove saying, what do we need with experts, or, you know, what have you said during the Brexit thing. And so there's this really kind of really bad consequences of allowing that kind of train of thought, or that way of looking at things, where, well, I have an opinion and therefore it's of equal merit. And that's really, there's a really kind of negative downside to having that thought process. So how do I sort of fools so lightly? I think I often just kind of remember why that's come about. Like, within going back to the karate context, the reason why there's a whole host of eight dans nowadays who
Yeah.
are calling themselves, you know, Sidoshi or Hanshin or whatever they call themselves, is because for a generation or two before then, people were subjugated and pushed down and told that they were no good and given no value. And so if they now feel that that helps them give them value, so be it. Because the one thing that they don't do, by elevating their opinion to whatever level, that doesn't mean that it pushes my opinion down. It doesn't mean that it pushes my ability down. If they want to elevate it up, that's fine. That's what they're doing, but
Yeah.
it doesn't affect me whatsoever. And so, you know, it's like I often think about kind of happiness. A lot of people don't want to be happy. They just want to be relatively happy. They don't want to be happy. They just want to be happier than the person next door. And so people don't want to be clever. They just want to be more clever than that guy. They don't want to have high status. They just want to have a higher status than that guy. And so I don't buy into that. I don't want to be happier than my next door neighbor. I just want to be happy. I don't want to be better than my next door neighbor. I just want to be good. And so if someone is elevating themselves to, I'm really good at karate, well, that's great. Good for you. Call yourself, eighth Dan Shidoshi, whatever you want to call yourself. And I'll focus on my karate, and I'll think that my karate is good as well. Doesn't affect me whatsoever. So that's how I kind of just go, yeah, okay, all right, mate. Fine, no worries.
Yeah, no, I admire you. I think also, it's a bit like karate's changed. So in that, if you started karate in 1974, every karate club, Wado, anyone, Kung Fu, Jiu-Jitsu, it would all be hard. It would all be mad, stupid, bunny hops, jumping on your stomach. That's what karate was. So that we all have that image. To be good at karate those days, you had to be tough and fit and a bit bonkers. And then now the image of, and like nobody would ever dream of being like an eighth Dan.
Yeah.
I mean, my first KGB book went to third Dan. And that was it. I remember filling it up. I was like, wow, I've filled my book up. It would never kick me on now. So again, karate's changed. Well, nobody was third Dan. Terry O'Neill was third Dan. Andy Sherry was fourth Dan. That was like as high as you went. So it's just nowadays that everyone has an opinion. Everyone, people have that license. In those days, you didn't have a license. In those days, unless you were like a bit mad and like covered in bruises and like really fit, you were good at karate. I mean, that's no good either, but that's just the way it was. But now people can, people have that license, partly because you said, because they had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Suddenly it flowered out and everybody could suddenly go, it's like the Catholic Church. Everyone followed Rome. Then Martin Luther banged those things on the wall and suddenly, whoa, everyone went.
But,
and that's great and that's good.
But to bring this whole conversation full circle, people have an innate ability to recognize quality, as was the thesis of Zen and the moving of the ultimate.
I mean, you when you see people, if they have if their karate is any good or not.
Yeah.
You found Rick Houghton. I remember you telling me I found this guy, and Rick was a great example of someone who's got quality. And then I took you to Rick Jackson's Sensei dojo, and you go, yeah, this is the guy. And it's like, you have to be kind to blind men. I mean, sometimes people live in that bubble and live in that. Well, there's nothing you can change about that because they live in that world. And as Marcus Aurelius says, do not concern yourself with things that are not important.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
there you go. Good end, wasn't it?
You're just clever, you are.
I'm a smart ass. I'm confident I'm a bit of smart ass.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Simon Sensei. We shall do this again. If people like watching it, we will do.
2 likes, 47 not likes, no one watches. Thank you.
Oh.